So one of the questions that I have heading into camp, the first day of camp for Oklahoma, is how does Alex Grinch fix the culture of the defense? And what is it that he and Lincoln Riley, to that effect, were looking for when we're talking about guys that are going to fit into what you want to do and how you want to do it? And I found myself listening to some other guys, because I listen to Lincoln Riley talk a lot, listen to Alex Grinch talk a lot, but hearing how David Shaw got to Andrew Luck was also, I think, quite insightful when we're talking about Jalen Hurts, when we're talking about good quarterback play, and we're talking about the kind of guys and the way in which Lincoln Riley might go about not just recruiting his quarterbacks, but guys that fit his program. Take a listen.
Are they going to handle being third string, right? I don't want to pick a guy that's going to be third string when he gets there to Stanford and want to transfer. Mm-hmm. Like, no, there's going to be a process for you, guys that understand that process. And recruiting Andrew Luck, Andrew was great. He was like a 30-year-old man when he was 17, right? It wasn't difficult. But it was great to hear other people. So recruiting the area, and there was his big rival talking to his rival's high school coach. And he says, okay, I got to tell you about this Andrew Luck guy. I was like, okay, give me something. He says, okay, here's what happens, coach. Our team comes up with a dirty limerick for the other team's favorite player, or their best player. Yeah. All right, so we're getting ready to play Andrew, and I'm waiting, and all week I don't hear it. So I grabbed my seniors and said, okay, where's the lyric? I said, Coach, we don't want to come up with a lyric against this guy. They said, why? He's not going to hear it. He said, no, Coach, we respect him too much. Wow. So in high school, to have your rivals feel that way, and of course Andrew would just demolish them. Yeah. And then that night the coach is down, and he's at dinner, and who walks in but Andrew and his family, and they go across the restaurant. And here's this high school senior, walks across the restaurant, shakes the opposing coach's hand, and stands there and talks to him and his wife for like 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, recruiting process is over. We're done here. It's over. Yeah. This is our guy.
So that's David Shaw talking about how he came to understand that Andrew Luck was going to be his guy at Stanford. And I found it quite interesting that these are the kind of details and stories that coaches want to hear. It's not just that a guy is a good person. They want to hear that from everybody. Because I would say, man, aren't you just tired of everybody telling you that this kid's the one, that this kid's awesome because everybody just wants him to end up with you? But he says, no, I want to hear that from everybody, but I want them to give me a why. Sometimes the why is the same, but every now and again you get one of these stories like Andrew Luck is a 30-year-old dude when he's 17. Spence, you're laughing.
Yeah, I mean, that is the most, like, if I had to write a description of what I thought Andrew Luck was like in high school, it would be a 30-year-old man at 17.
Right, but also inside the joke there is, how many 17-year-olds would see the dude they just beat up as a grown man and then go over and shake his hand, say hi, and then be able to carry the conversation for about 15 minutes? That's not regular, but that's also what you're looking for in a quarterback, not regular. You want a different guy.
It's that little extra something we always talk about.
Right, and that was something that I found quite just enlightening. Another thing I found enlightening was the way that Chip Kelly talked about knowing that Marcus Mariota was his guy, and in this way, he's not necessarily talking about character, he's talking about how did you know that that guy was the one that you need to play that could pick up what you were laying down and be the dude that turned out to be Marcus Mariota, the guy at Oregon.
So for you at the collegiate level, because now the rush, it used to be you get a high school player, he redshirts, he develops. Well, now everyone is like, oh, no, he has to get on the field because you won't have him long. Yeah. How do you take that five-star player, put him on the field, and give him enough where it's not so simple that everyone knows that you've dumbed down everything?
And I think that's the key is the one thing is I'll give the high schools, and as you know, coaching high school now, they're a lot more advanced. There are kids coming in that can dictate coverage and tell you split safeties and quarters and half on one side and things that used to take you a year or two to kind of get figured out. Marcus Mariota is a great example. He only played 1 year of high school football as a starter in his senior year. And when we were with him for 6 days, he made the right read. He got to the fourth one in his progression, and I was like, how'd you get there? And he was like, I don't know what you call that coverage, but there were a lot of guys over there. So
he went the bunch theory.
So I threw the ball over here. And I was like, you're 100% correct. And then part of it made you think, I'm like, we spend an inordinate amount of time teaching him cover 6 and cover 9 and cover 5. And you just, let's teach him the plays and the concepts. And so we got into more of that. And that's how he really kind of flourished. And he was a full field read guy in college because he showed he could do that without even being able to. Then he learned how to articulate what he was seeing. But there are kids that just have that, and it's an innate ability, and That's what you have to try. You have to spend some time in the recruiting process of meeting them and finding them and trying to get a feeling for what they're all about. And if you can get a feeling for what they're all about, then that makes our jobs a lot easier.
And if you were looking for more reasons to believe in Spencer Rattler, there you go. Because everything that I did in my reporting and getting to know he and his family underscores that was the guy. He not just got it off the field, he got it on the field in a way that many his age just don't. There are too many folks that just throw in there, hey, this guy can do what Marcus Mariota did. This guy can do what Trevor Lawrence did. We're thinking Justin Fields has that. Maybe, but we didn't get to see it last year. You're thinking Spencer Rattler might have that, and he would have to unseat a guy that I said in the previous segment could end up as the best college football player of all time. But if anybody would go and recruit that guy, it would be Lincoln Riley. Go ahead, Spence.
I was going to say, yeah, that's an interesting look into like the psyche of a quarterback because, you know, you look at a guy often athletically and you're like, yeah, we could plug this guy in and he can do this. But it's all about, a lot of it is about making those reads. Like, can he read the safety? Like, can he do things like that? Can he make the full, like you said, be a full field read guy in college? Because that is rare. Right.
And in doing all of that, you're trying to bring in a guy that fits your culture, that fits what you know how to do, what you know how to coach, and is willing to buy into what you're doing, but also has all the attributes where you don't have to change him. You don't want to have to change a guy. And I think that's what Alex Grinch is going to be up against this year. He has to change everybody to his way of thinking. He doesn't have any guys that he recruited on this roster. So that's why I wanted you to hear Mario Cristobal talk about how he was able to do that at Oregon and what he's been looking for.
We got to save ourselves from ourselves. Because you pop in that film, man, this guy could run. God, he could catch. Whoa, this guy's going to be a great player. And then you go over to practice, and he's sitting out practice because he missed 4 classes, and you still want to convince yourself, oh, he'll be fine with us. Mm-hmm. Or you go down to the attendance office, and he's been absent 18 times and late another 30 times. Oh, but we'll fix him. Well, you might. Mm-hmm. It's going to take up every single resource you have, and it's going to take up the time you could be investing in the betterment of the rest of the program. So those are tough decisions. It requires a lot of background checking, just like you guys do. I mean, you guys invest an extraordinary amount of time and money in checking up on, you know, what type of DNA, what people are made up inside to select the right guy. So we're total believers in it.
I want to look at your quarterback in Justin Herbert. We've had a chance to talk about him previously, but just give us your scouting report first of him as a player, and then what we can learn about him as a person.
So that was Daniel Jeremiah with Bucky Brooks talking about what they saw and what they learned from these coaches as they asked some questions that I thought you would want to hear. Move the Sticks is the podcast. But look, all of those things I think you can layer over the top of what Alex Grinch is trying to do, what Lincoln Riley's trying to do, what Monty has been trying to do at Tulsa, and what Mike Gundy has basically succeeded in. I want to find guys that fit what I'm trying to do, and if they don't fit what I'm trying to do, I need to cut the fat. I need to try to do this my way, which is the place to put it down. Because if you're Alex Grinch, you cannot be afraid to talk about the elephant in the room, which is your defense was trash last year. Your personnel was garbage. It didn't play well. Even as we can pick out guys who are individuals who did play well, but your defense collectively was terrible. And don't be the guy who's telling everybody, I wasn't here. Don't be the guy who is afraid of the criticism, but be the guy who's owning it. Be honest about your assessments, but also be honest about who you are. Be honest about who you think these young men are. Find the guys that you trust. Find the guys that you think reflect your values, and then teach them to play football. Right? Because at this level, whether you're Mario Cristobal or Alex Grinch, you have a great opportunity to use the reputation of the people who have built this to your advantage to go get guys that know how to play football. Now the job is assessing character. Because it's one thing to see a guy on film who flat out can play. It's another thing to say that guy can come play for you. Because that means you got to get to know him. And that's why I say that recruiting is cultivating, and you're always tilling the soil. You have to be able to pin that kid to the wall. Know what makes him tick. Know what his family thinks about him. Know what his friends think about him. Know what his guidance counselor thinks about him. What was his favorite subject? Like the questions that irk me. that people would ask of recruits are things like, hey, tell me a moment when something didn't go your way. What is, as they say in that cliche way, some adversity that you faced? Yeah, okay. Tell me about the most triumphant moment in your life. You'd be amazed at what some of these kids have to say. Ennis Gaines is a father. That dude's got a nearly a year-old child, and he's playing safety at TCU right now. I'll bet that man has some stories he could tell you even beforehand. I'll bet there are quite a few of these dudes that would be like, yo, man, I would really love to be able to tell you about my first bar mitzvah. That would be great. And then unpack all these other things that you get to talk about. And along the way, you're going to get to learn, yeah, when did that dude have something that didn't break his way? Because I'm willing to bet that most of the kids that end up at OU or any high major program have had some things that didn't break their way. And they're not all just going to give you that up front because you didn't earn it. You didn't recruit them. You didn't trust. So in thinking about all of that, I just wanted to put that in your head as we head into camp, as we hear what Riley has to say, as we hear the news, as we continue to be on this journey through preseason camp all the way to September 1st for Oklahoma when they play Houston, to the first game for Tulsa, for the first game for Oklahoma State. It's going to be a lot of fun. You've been listening to the RJ Young Show on your home for sports, the sports animal.